All right, welcome back. There seems to be a glare. Anyway, um, well, today was certainly interesting in that the U.S. played, and it wasn't the prettiest of games, but you know, uh, it was stressful. My one takeaway from that match is essentially this. So yeah, that was indeed too close. The If not for two penalty decisions, the United States would have certainly. It didn't seem like we were going to score. It didn't seem like Sweden were going to score. It looked like we were going to head to a penalty shootout, which is notoriously basically up for grabs. It's never a good idea to go into a penalty shootout, especially if you're supposedly the better team. Going into a penalty shootout is where the lesser teams try and survive to, because there it's essentially an even playing field. You just have to have better nerves than the other team, and maybe a little bit of luck when it comes to saves or something like that. So it was stressful, and I'll get into sort of the details in just a bit. But there were games yesterday that I didn't cover that I'd like to cover. So we had England playing Cameroon. They won expectedly. The controversy, though, was that Cameroon really didn't like the video assistant referee. There were a lot of decisions that ultimately they were correct. It's just the way that VAR has been perceived is now it's perceived as such now that it's just like, even me, I'm not really enjoying some of these games because of VAR, and I think that's a problem. But there's various reasons for it, and ultimately, I think it'll get better as time progresses, but I think there's a lot of problems in terms of the timing of implementing it, because they had a bunch of new rules that came out just before this tournament, which caused a lot of panic and stuff, and ultimately that's just it didn't work out as smoothly as I think FIFA hoped it did, or hoped it would have. But nevertheless, England advances. And then we had the game to decide one half of the sort of epic quarterfinal. That was France versus Brazil, and whether or not France could advance. My whole take on it was whether or not France could prove that they're sort of the real deal. They did indeed do that. Brazil came out firing really well. They put up a really good fight. They almost won it in just from a good save, a defensive work, just little things here and there just helped them to stay in the game when it was tied 1-1, and then ultimately they got the late goal to give them the win. They went to extra time though, so they went 90 minutes, and then they had to play some extra time. So they set up the expectation that it's whoever wins the Spain-U.S. match would go to play them. I'm going to skip over the U.S.-Spain match again and go to the most recent match, which was Sweden versus Canada. This one again was I would say a pretty good matchup in terms of equal size or equal skill level. Canada, I think, had most of the possession and all of that, but ultimately the game is about goals, and Sweden got their goal off of a pretty good play, a through ball, and ultimately they held on even after Canada got a penalty to try and tie it up, which their goalkeeper made a save, and she adjusted with the new rules, so she had one foot on the line, made the save, and showed us that, look, you can actually save a penalty with your foot on the line. It's just you have to adjust a little bit. I personally may have overreacted in sort of just my personal life and Twitter, just suggesting changes they could make, like having a small box that keepers could step into, or like a small area that they could step up into, just to help the keepers out, because penalty kicks are notoriously, they're more often than not, penalties are made than saved. So I feel like it should be a little bit less so, but I think I just have to adjust like everybody else with the new rules. But thankfully, the Spanish goalkeeper didn't make either save today, because the U.S. got 2 penalties, and that's where they got their 2 goals. And Spain only managed to get 1 goal, and we'll talk about that in just a sec. So it started off well for the U.S. In the 4th minute or 5th minute, Tobin Heath got into the box, was fouled. It was a clear penalty, and the U.S. stepped up. Megan Rapinoe took it, and it was all things great. Perfect start. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get through this match easily and on to France, right? Not so much, because the big question going into this whole situation, the World Cup, was, could Alyssa Nair and the U.S. defense be solid enough to, the whole adage of defense wins championships, right? And in this match, they gave us an astonishing moment of just lack of awareness, or just a lapse of judgment, because Alyssa Nair played the ball off of a goal kick, I think, to Becky Sauerbrunn, the center back, but she was under pressure. She ended up giving the ball away with a Spanish attacker on the end of it, and it was not an easy tap-in, but the attacker took her chance, and on a mistake from the U.S. scored a goal. And that was in the 9th or 10th minute, so it's 5 minutes after we scored. We give up an idiotic goal that shouldn't have been, which was a mistake. And, the questions keep coming up, and I'm, skeptical that Alyssa Nair can do the job that we need her to. But, she's still the number 1 goalkeeper, and, there's nothing we can do about it. And I don't think it would have been such a big problem as it seemed if we had played a little bit better and Spain weren't doing what they were doing, which, credit to them, they took it to the United States. They tried that gift that we gave them really helped them out. It gave them confidence. And I think the referee today also sort of helped out in that she was very reluctant to give out yellow cards, because I believe the stats were like Spain fouled 17 times. Those are actual called fouls, compared to the U.S.'s 5. And there were several other instances where Alex Morgan was getting pushed over or kicked into, run into, and it was just a very physical battle that Spain put us through. And, we couldn't really play our game as well as we wanted to. And so, the first half went by, and it was just frustration. I got nervous because we weren't playing our best, and Spain had some chances here and there to, try. And then, second half, and it just kept going and going and going. It was getting closer and closer to the end of regular time, and it would have gone to extras. And again, penalties. Getting to penalties after that was not a good thing. But luck was on our side this time, because we got another penalty decision. It took a while to get to the decision. If you want to look that up, I'm sure it's on the highlights of just going through the penalty. It was a soft penalty, and I would have to agree it's a soft penalty, but it's a penalty nonetheless, because the defender kicked out trying to get a ball. Rose Lavelle, got to the ball first, and then she got her calf raked by the defender's studs and her cleats, and ultimately the pain, I think, it wasn't like a massive hit to it. It was just a scrape, which didn't register for a second there, but I think you have to call that, and it's hard to overturn it. You could see it as being not a foul and being a foul. So, it was just one of those things where the referee called it. They reviewed it with VAR. She looked at it again, and she was like, okay, well, there's really no clear and obvious error, which I liked that she didn't, go over that. This was sort of the big moment. There was a lot of gamesmanship involved, and so I think it took like 5 minutes to get to where shooting the penalty. So what followed was a goal, but I'm just gonna show you my reaction to it.
It just has to be touching that circle. Here we go, Saints. Get on the line. Rakito will strike.
Yeah! Come on! Come on! So yeah, I got a little bit animated. That's certainly not the strongest reaction I've had to a soccer game before, but I was definitely feeling it a little bit, and the frustration continued on until the final whistle, where you could finally just breathe. So you could tell that in just. It was not a fun match to watch through, but we got the job done, and ultimately I think the difference between winners of World Cups and losers, which is everybody else, is luck for one, and then for two, being able to grind out these kind of victories, which is ugly. We didn't score any goal from an open play. To be frank though, Spain was only in it because we gave it to them. Again, you don't want to see those mistakes in another game like France, where they may not give those penalties away or whatnot. So ultimately, the stage is set, and Friday is going to be probably, it's the first of basically three finals, I think, and I'll get to that in just a sec. But tomorrow, Italy play China. I think Italy will go through. I think they'll just be defensively solid, and they'll be able to get at least one over China, but who knows? China is not the worst team in the world. And then we also have the Netherlands playing Japan, and so that is certainly another matchup that's going to be interesting. Japan is and the Netherlands are good. I think the Netherlands edge this just a little bit. I think Japan is just a little bit inexperienced, but sometimes that could be good, sometimes that could be bad. The Netherlands, though, I think will take that edge to complete the bracket. As it stands, though, we've got three of the quarterfinal matches set up. So Germany will play Sweden. I think the Germans will get it done. I think Germany and Sweden play a very similar kind of football in that they're very rigid defensively and very technical and all that. But I think Germany just has the ability to create just a little bit more, and they've certainly reached their stride in closer days. We've got Norway versus England. We've got a replay of basically the invasion of Norway way back when with the Vikings. And I think in this case it's going to be a replay of history. You might get an early Norwegian goal or something, but I think England should be able to finish it out, though there are questions about them being able to finish out games, so who knows. But I think England will go through. I think that would be a fun matchup next, because the U.S. versus France is that big match on Friday. So people said, I've heard people say, if whichever team comes out of the U.S. versus France game will win the whole tournament. I think that might be true. I don't think England are a slouch, though. I think they're third, and France are technically ranked fourth. So technically, England are the quote-unquote more difficult opponent for the United States. But I think France is the only team in like 40-some-odd games, I heard, that the U.S. has lost to. Everybody else has either drawn or been beaten by the U.S., so we'll just have to see. And I don't know if I'll be able to get any more check-ins. I'll be on the road for this next week, so hopefully I can come back and give a preview of the semifinal rounds. But that's what it's looking up to look out for. That's what it's looking to be. We'll just have to see what happens tomorrow. I can give you a last little look there before I'm headed off to where I'm going. So do tune in. The games are just going to get even better from here on out. And they're, even though some of them, there's an 8 a.m. time on Saturday. That's not the worst thing in the world, but still, Friday is that big one for the United States. So we'll just have to see what happens. And I'm hoping that I'll get to celebrate a victory for Friday and come back to another match to look forward to. Otherwise, it'll be certainly kind of sad. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and breathe.
Well done by Heath, Moran, and O'Hara's there too. Ball played back. Easy play for Dom Kemper. That's it.
And breathe.